People ask me how I stay around 10, 12% body fat year round as a woman over 40, especially given the travel, the event size, the demanding schedule, family. They want the hack, the shortcut, the secret supplement, or the meal plan. The reality, it's not a secret. It's intensity, it's structure, and systems that support follow through. But here's what most people don't understand: staying physically fit year round isn't just about the physical, it never has been. Physical fitness is the visible outcome of four interconnected systems working together: mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness. When one falters, the others compensate. When all four are aligned, you don't just thrive your schedule, you thrive in it. And this is the foundation of my Fit for Events framework. And this year, as I train for my first Ironman in July and prepare for my first national bodybuilding debut in September, these four pillars aren't just philosophy. They're the operating system that are keeping me grounded and focused and moving forward when everything in my life is demanding and full. So today, what I want to do is break down all those four pillars. I'm also sharing the 10 habits that make the year round fitness possible for me. And I'm going to get real with you guys about all the places that I have learned to surrender, where resilience had to be learned, and what it really means to keep promises to yourself when no one else is watching. So, welcome to Build from Within, the personal side of my work that will be running in parallel to the CEO edition here in season 11. This is where I get honest about the inner work that makes the outer work possible. And with that, let's start where most people think the story begins: the body.
Events Demystified, the podcast for event professionals.
This episode is brought to you by Trifan Events Production. We don't just produce events, we power them with AV, AI, and strategy. From bespoke AV production planning and management to AI workshops, courses, and keynotes, we help teams build smarter events and stronger businesses. Learn more at trifanevents.com.
I love to get the yearly reviews from any app that I've engaged with, and Spotify has started this tradition with their Spotify Wrapped. And now a lot of other apps are doing it because they have AI embedded into it, and it's so much easier to create a report with all this data that they've been collecting on us. So my fitness app that I use for my training, where I build all my programming, has been giving me some stats. So according to my fitness app, in 2025, I lifted over 6 million pounds. And if you are a visual person, that's 20 big white whales, just for an easy comparison, because I mean, everybody knows what a big white whale weighs, right? So yeah, that's 6 million pounds. Now, I push hard and I lift heavy. I don't mean like 20, 30, 40, 50-pound dumbbells. I mean 650-pound leg presses and 300-pound deadlifts and 375-pound squats and 475-pound hip thrusts, 175-pound leg extension. And those aren't even my PRs. Those are my regular sets, week after week after week. Obviously, there's progressive overload involved there too, but I'm going to be turning 44 this year. I think I am going to be perimenopausal soon, Although, to be honest, I have been too busy to feel the symptoms, if there's any to be felt. One thing is for sure, I don't do things the easy way. So when I say something is hard for me, and my husband has learned this, it tends to be about 100 times harder than for the average person. That's kind of the baseline here. I don't do anything casually. I don't do casual workouts. I don't do casual work. I don't do casual anything. I am really fully invested, intense at times. That's because I don't believe in maintenance mode or just staying active, especially when it comes to my fitness and my active life. I believe in training with intention and structure and a deadline on the calendar that demands my very best. So, how do you stay physically fit at a very low body fat percentile while also building muscle in the process year round? Here are the 10 habits that I'm going to share with you. And you can take them, you can steal them, or you can leave them. It's up to you. But those are the 10 habits that keep me lean, strong, and capable year round. No matter where I am, and I am in many places, okay? And no matter what's on my plate, and there's a lot on my plate all the time. Number one, protein. I do not compromise on my protein intake. I handle that early, especially in my morning coffee. I add collagen, and then I consistently throughout the day hit around 150 grams of protein. So that is my absolute non-negotiable thing. It supports my muscle recovery, my hormone balance, my appetite control. It really is what has been building me for the last few years with all the hard work that I've been putting in the gym. Macros, it's another one. So that's number two. I track macros wherever I am. At home, while traveling, on event sites, I track my intake. I travel with a food scale. And yes, I am the person that would take an empty plate, put it on the food scale, and then put my plate with everything else. I have an app that can take a picture, and it really divides everything in macros. Thank you, MyFitnessPal, for actually making it super easy these days to track everything. I also plan ahead, which removes a lot of decision fatigue and prevents reactive eating. I've learned long time ago not to go into a store or a restaurant feeling hungry. So I always pack some protein bars or shakes or something with me that will keep me going. I will always have something planned for me. I don't just wing it. I don't just rely on willpower. I rely on systems. And I have shared in the past how, for me, feeling hungry was a very traumatic experience that I had to unpack because growing up, I have gone through periods of being hungry, and I didn't realize how much that was impacting me until I started going through prep for my bodybuilding competition. And when you get to a very low caloric intake while you're still pushing really hard in the gym, it hits you really hard. So I had to unpack a lot of the trauma that was associated with food and lack of food for me. That's a different story for another time. One thing that you need to remember here is that second habit is tracking my macros. A lot of people wing it and think, oh, I don't eat crappy food or I eat kind of healthy. But if you ask them what are their macros or how exactly do they know that they eat healthy, they will tell you at a high level the things that they eat, but have no idea how much they overate past that. I had a client that I was working with that she would constantly have boba teas, like 2 or 3 a day. And those are packed with sugar and carbs. And by the time you do the math, you realize that you literally just took 600 carbs. You intake all of that via a drink that you just had multiplied, whatever, how many times you had it that day. That to me is insanity. And then you'd be like, I can lose weight. I do everything. Do you really? To me, the math doesn't math. Anyway, third habit. Weight training is intense and intentional for me. I train heavy weights 6 days a week with progressive overload. My sessions are focused. The effort is high. When I see white stars when I lift is when I know that I gave it my all. I don't do any casual workouts. I don't go to the gym to socialize, okay? I socialize in other places and I make friends in other places. The gym is a place where I'm focused. I go in with the game face on and I do my work. When it comes to my workouts, I achieve 100% focus in all of my workouts. So trust me, I track everything. When I have 45 seconds between my reps, that's 45 seconds. That's not a minute. That's not 3 minutes. That's not 7 minutes. It's 45 seconds. If I have heavy lifts involved, that's 2 minutes. And I track everything. I am such a tracker. You guys have no idea. But that's what gives my life sense and consistency. I know it can sound like crazy for some of you. They're like, oh my God, what? Yeah, I live by my calendar. Everything in my life, I track my workouts and my macros and my protein intake. Another thing that I do, and this is habit number 4, zone 2 cardio, is structured and consistent. And this is something that I actually had to learn the hard way. I was going through my first prep, and the prep coach that I had at the time, she was a little younger and in her 20s. And she was thinking that her formula would work just fine for someone of my age. And I was following her formula, doing zone 3 and 4 cardio every single day and literally running myself into the ground. It was the hardest prep I've gone through. And I think I needed to in order to learn what good prep looks like and what bad prep looks like in bodybuilding. And that was not good prep. I remember being in pain every single day from just running miles, and my joints were hurting, my knees were hurting, everything was hurting. Okay. So I just push through the hard because that's what I do. I don't just quit. I don't just give up. I'm like, this is what it takes. I'm going to do what it takes and I'm going to get this done. Are there other ways and better ways? 100%. But I had to learn this the hard way. So if you're someone that hates zone 3 and 4 cardio, running is not for you, biking is not for you, zone 2 is your friend. I do 45 minutes, 7 days a week, primarily. For me, that is incline treadmill, 15 degrees, speed about 3. I alternate with the Stairmaster. And that is enough to build aerobic capacity to support recovery and keep my body adaptable. And also work on my HRV and my VO2 max. I'm actually elite VO2 max, if you're curious. So yeah, those are the things that you start to learn the more you do it. And for me, zone 2 cardio has been an experience, something I had to learn. You can lose just as much body fat by engaging in low intensity cardio versus pushing so hard that you have nothing left in the tank. Okay, this brings me to habit number 5. Recovery and sleep. Those are treated as training variables like everything else. I prioritize my sleep and my rest and my recovery with pretty much the same discipline that I prioritize my lifting and cardio. Recovery isn't optional, especially if your intent is to build muscle, to show the hard work that you have put in the gym so that you look like you actually work out. It's all about optimization.
Events Demystified, the podcast for event professionals.
I also use peptides now in controlled intentional cycles that are very much planned and monitored. And this isn't about shortcuts for me. It goes back to optimization. And I need to pause here and set a boundary that I believe needs to be said out loud. Just because I share parts of my training and my nutrition or my performance journey online doesn't mean that I am somehow obligated to give individualized advice or disclose my sources or make referrals or answer private medical or peptide questions in my DMs. Content is not consent, people. Visibility is not access. And if you are not under contract with my fitness company and not being coached by me or someone on my team, I'm not responsible for guiding your decisions, for reviewing protocols or price shopping compounds or weighing in on what provider you should be using. If you already have a provider, may that be, I don't know, chiropractor, clinician, expert of some sort, use that provider. Let them manage your thing. That conversation belongs with them. I've had too many people get offended. I would not go into details with them about my sources or about my peptide protocol, and I would not divulge some of that information. I'm like, I'm not obligated to. I'm sorry. Also, there's the need to understand that bodybuilding operates in a very different lane than, say, general wellness. As a professional bodybuilder with extensive education and real world experience in performance based training and nutrition and peptides, I put a lot of time, a lot of hours in learning about peptides. I do not rely on some kind of physician to approve or disapprove or prescribe my personal performance decisions. That is not how this field works, and it never has, for the better or worse. I also do not outsource my judgment to someone who lacks context and training age or performance literacy. What I share publicly is intentionally high level. It is educational, not prescriptive. And you slip into my DMs and you just have this attitude, block. I don't deal with that. So there we go. If you're someone that wants coaching, you want structure, you want accountability and access, that exists through formal coaching. If not, that's fine too. But availability and boundaries are not hostility. I'm sorry if you want to read me as hostile because I don't want to give you the information that you're asking for. I don't have to. I'm not obligated to. So you either respect the line or you keep working with whomever you're working with. And another thing that needs to be said here plainly, anyone with real experience in performance knows better than to talk protocols and peptides and any other type of compounds with some random stranger who hasn't mastered the basics. That is not professionalism. That is negligence. Peptides are not a shortcut for poor nutrition and inconsistent training and bad sleep or chaotic recovery. They are an amplifier. They're not a foundation. The order is always basically the same. Nutrition dialed in, training programmed correctly, sleep is consistent, recovery is respected, and stress is managed. Only after those boxes are checked does it even make sense to discuss advanced tools. Skipping that order because something is trending is how people waste money at best and hurt themselves at worst. And this is exactly why I don't prescribe, I don't recommend, I don't price shop or discuss protocols with people that I am not coaching. And I'm only coaching 3 people per quarter. I am not coaching just anyone or everyone. They have to be from my industry. I have to understand context. I have to understand their challenges. They also have to understand my own context because all of that matters. History matters, competence matters. And no serious professional will just hand some advanced tools to someone who has not earned them through discipline basics. Trends don't change physiology. Algorithms don't replace fundamentals. And popularity doesn't just equal readiness. And if that sounds strict, well, good. Performance demands standard. Now, back to the habits. I think we are at number 7 before I went on to this train because I feel like it had to be said. I'm obviously very passionate about that. Number 7 is promises to myself that I make are also non-negotiable. I don't make excuses and I don't break commitments. I do not cut myself slack because, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I had such a long day. Oh, today was hell. I don't do any of that. And if I said that I was going to be in the gym, I'm going to be in the gym. If I said that I was going to meet someone, I will meet someone. I'm not one of those flaky people that just change their mind because it's easier. I don't do that. And because I don't do that, if it's 10 p.m. and the day has been held because I've been up since 4 a.m. and it's been nonstop, I will go and do my workout at 10 p.m. and I will get it done. So that's one thing that I think it's so important to have standards for yourself and keep to those standards no matter what. So for me, that is promises that I make to myself. I keep them and I do not just break them. Number 8, my circle of friends and my circle that I surround myself with supports my standards. I keep a very intentional small group of people around me to hold me accountable. And those are the people that I expect much of because they also expect much of me. I don't normalize inconsistency. And I think it's so important. I mean, there's a saying about like whom you surround yourself with, you become. My environment either supports my goals or sabotages them. And I choose the people around me to support my goals. Number 9, my workspace is optimized for efficiency. Now, I have worked remotely for about 10 years now, and I am very used to working alone. And I structure my work environment to reduce friction, to protect my focus. Just because my office is in my house doesn't mean that that's a free pass for the TV to be on all the time, or for Spotify to be running nonstop, or for YouTube to just be playing in the background. I am very, very focused on the work that I do. And that is what creates the capacity that I have, so that when I focus on something, I focus on something and I don't just jump from task to task to task. Yes, I do have a lot of tabs open, but I'm very, very focused on the things that I said that I would do that day and just check them off, because that's what creates the time and the energy that I need in order to keep training consistently. A lot of people, complain that they don't have time, but they also don't realize how the systems that they build around themselves do not support their schedule, do not allow for their schedule to be working towards their goals. And for me, if the logistics don't support the goal, then the goal doesn't happen. And because I care about the goal, then I make sure that the logistics and the environment around me supports it. It's easy. The math has to math, okay? So obviously that looks differently on different days based on where I am. If I'm working from home, it's easier. If I'm on the go, if I'm traveling, if I'm speaking at events, if I'm producing events, all of that means it will change. I have to be flexible, but I always have systems in each one of those places of how am I going to keep myself disciplined and responsible to my own goals, not just to those of others. And number 10, I always train towards a deadline or a growth goal, a show, a performance target, a next level goal is always on the calendar for me. When one ends, another replaces it. Sometimes I run multiple goals at the same time, but I always have something, a milestone that I work towards, because this is what I've learned keeps me sharp, keeps me engaged, and keeps me moving forward. And this isn't about like being perfect or extreme. It's just how I have learned to protect this version of myself. And this version of myself, I have worked very hard to build. These habits gave me energy and confidence and control in a life that's full and it's demanding and sometimes chaotic. And I don't do this to punish my body. I do it because this is how I show up as my strongest, bestest self. But here's the part a lot of people miss. None of this works without the other 3 pillars that I mentioned. Physical fitness is just the visible layer. The real works happens underneath. So in my next segments, I'm going to talk about the other 3 pillars: mental fitness, emotional fitness, and spiritual fitness. So stay tuned for that.
Events Demystified, the podcast for event professionals.
So I needed to take a break and pause the recording and come back to it the next day because I lost my voice. And this cold is also getting the best of me. So we'll see how far we go this time in part 2 of this episode. I think where we were left at as we were talking about pillars is I think it was the third pillar. We were talking about physical pillars and we touched on physical fitness. And then I was going to move into the next pillar. So the next pillar, mental fitness, is all about mindset. It's about setting goals and sticking to them. It's about resilience, endurance, performance, and showing up even when things get hard. It's consistency over motivation. And it's not breaking promises made to yourself and to others. It's refusing to quit when the work gets uncomfortable and inconvenient or boring. So let me give you an example, a very present example from my life right now, and the reason why I got this cold. Swimming. Now, anyone who knows me knows that water, the ocean, it's just not my thing. I used to live in Huntington Beach for about 5 years. And you know how many times I got into the ocean? About 2 times. I loved walking and running, and rollerblading was cool at the time by the ocean. But getting in the ocean is just not my thing. That's just not something that I just do for fun. So swimming has always been something that I kind of did because once you get in the water, you obviously want to know how to float so you don't drown. So my dad actually taught me how to swim when I was 5, but I never really made swimming a sport. And as I'm training for this Ironman, I am learning how much, one, I'm not a swimmer, two, I need better technique to be more efficient. And 3, I don't enjoy swimming. Nothing about it is fun for me right now. The breathing in the water, underwater is hard. My body gets super cold, hence why I have a cold now. My hands and my lips turn purple. I feel like I'm freezing all the time. Well, thanks to low body fat. Anyway, moving through the water feels inefficient and I feel like I'm wasting my time. And I would rather do cardio, zone 2 in any other shape or form but the water. So I basically hate anything about it. And I personally also hate something that takes a lot of effort and is just not efficient. So right now, I'm in that stage where it's not efficient for me and I feel like it's not helping. But I know that I need it. I know that I have to train for it. And even though everything about it is so uncomfortable, and I even question my sanity for training for an Ironman when I hate swimming so much, um, I know that I have to do it. I know that it's needed, it's necessary. If I want to do this race, then swimming is the first gate that I have to go through. Here's what makes this, I think, especially humbling. I'm a very strong 43-year-old woman. If you remember from my first part that I was bragging about lifting 6 million pounds last year, that's 19 white whales, in case you wanted to be reminded of that. My baseline for hard is very much higher than your average person's baseline. And yet, swimming still feels hard. And bodybuilding has taught me how to suffer smartly. But swimming is asking me to apply the discipline in a medium that does not reward force. Swimming is not about trying harder, it's about trying less in the right places. And it's really uniquely cruel to adults like me who didn't grow up in it because it strips you of your dominant tools. I am dominant in environments where effort equals outcome. And swimming is an environment where effort without technique equals punishment. You cannot breathe when you want. You cannot stop when you want. You cannot fake efficiency. The water tells the truth immediately. And that hits really hard for high performance like me because my identity is built on competence and control and adaptation speed. And swimming laughs at all of those. It doesn't care how strong I am on land. It doesn't care what I have accomplished in bodybuilding. It demands a completely different kind of surrender. So the mindset shift that I'm learning to apply here is that Ironman swing training is not about enjoyment. It's not about winning either. It is about exiting the water with all my systems intact, calm, controlled, my heart rate not spiked all over the place, not rattled, not in recovery mode before I even get to touch the bike, the next phase. And I'm learning more and more that only happens with technique. Because here's the hard truth. You can certainly fake fitness in the pool, but you do not fake efficiency. And you don't want to because faking it costs you later. And the reality is, I do not have years to train. I have months. That does not mean rush. It just means that I have to apply targeted precisions. And while bodybuilding has volume and overload and refinement over time, swimming for me right now must include the technique first, conditioning second, and then the distance last. So I'm not trying to love swimming. I'm trying to make it boring and predictable and survivable. That's my winning condition right now. This is not a passion sport for me. I don't think it will ever be. It's a discipline sport. And I already know how to do discipline. So the way I'm reframing swimming in my head is I am learning to stay calm while my body wants to panic. And the truth is that kind of skill set transfers everywhere, business, stage, competition, life. So for now, the only job is this: get out of the pool, having stayed present longer than last time. Not faster, not prettier, just calmer, and work at perfecting that form. In the gym, bad form equals injury. In the water, bad form equals oxygen depth, panic, blown HR, and wasted energy. And in a race, that basically equals burning matches I cannot get back. So my job for the next few weeks is not to become this great swimmer. It's to become a low drag object in the water. Because if my body line is off, everything downstream is pretty much compromised. If my breathing is chaotic, my HR will never settle. And if my pool is inefficient, then I will exhaust myself spinning and stalling before I get to the finish line. So my job is to move from a bunch of effort that I'm putting on right now to economy, and from fighting through the water to flowing through the water. And the truth is, I have no room for ego here. Ego is expensive in endurance sports. So right now, I'm literally teaching my nervous system that water is not a threat. Coming back to the mindset pillar here, for me, mental fitness has never been about mantras. It has always been about training my brain to operate under constraint, to adapt when things don't go as planned, to keep moving forward when motivation runs out, to visualize the end result, the finish line during the grind. And it's about proving to myself that discomfort does not get to decide my behavior, even when that discomfort humbles me in ways that I don't always expect. As I'm starting as a total beginner, as something, and especially as an adult, that requires you to balance progress with patience, aggressive patience, intentional patience. And I had to learn patience in bodybuilding because you don't just grow overnight. You don't just change your body composition overnight. And for me, that has been learned under the barbell. Not any kind of patient, but patient with standards. And telling myself that I'm not behind. It feels like I'm behind. If I'm just learning to freestyle swim at 43, almost 44, it feels like I'm so behind. But I need to tell myself that I'm not behind. This is just phase one. And I am early in a short learning curve. And phase one is supposed to feel like this. So I commit to it regardless. How humbling it feels right now. Bodybuilding took years because I was building new tissue. For me right now, swimming has to move faster because I am building patterns. And those patterns change quickly when the brain is already disciplined. And I know that mine is. So yes, it's humbling. Yes, it's frustrating. And yes, it mirrors my early gym days. And yes, that also excites me because I already have the pattern. I already have the model. I already know exactly what happens next when you stay consistent and you stop basically bullshitting the process. And guess what? I'm here for it.
Events Demystified, the podcast for event professionals.
Let's get into the third pillar while my voice is still holding on. And this is the emotional fitness. Emotional fitness is the frontier that I really had to learn to conquer post 2020. And I talk about it at length in my memoir, what that process was like for me. So if you skip some of the newsletters, I'm going to make sure that you have the links in the episode notes. I also have an episode from last July where I talk about it. This was all based on chapter 11, Dead Air, and When the Feed Goes Dark. So when I think about how I went from depression and a lack of desire to live to thriving and overcoming the hardest obstacle of my life, which was my internal trauma, my internal demons, my own emotional limitations. For years, I believed that strength meant holding on and powering through. And I was carrying every emotion, every wound, every disappointment like this armor. And I thought that resilience meant never breaking. But then I realized that emotional fitness is not about holding on. It's not about looking strong on the outside while you're crumbling inside. It's about learning to let go of feelings and emotions that no longer serve you. It's about recognizing when anger becomes bitterness, when disappointment becomes resentment, when grief becomes identity. This has been the hardest pillar for me to build on because it requires full on vulnerability, not control. It requires feeling it, being deep in your feelings, not fixing your feelings. It requires trusting that letting go doesn't mean you're giving up. And I struggle with this the most because to me, letting go meant I'm giving up. And I don't give up. I just don't. And I had to consolidate how letting go actually means making space for what's next. The journey from depression to thriving wasn't linear, and it never is. It wasn't clean either. It wasn't something that I could lift my way out of or grind my way through. It required a different kind of work, the kind that happens in stillness, in honesty, in the uncomfortable spaces where you have to face yourself without distractions, without lying to yourself. And sometimes we hide so much for our own selves because there's too much there that we don't want to face. So emotional fitness for me, it means that I can acknowledge hard things without being buried by them. I can feel disappointed without spiraling out of control. I can hurt without becoming bitter. I don't always get it right, okay? I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. I still have to manage my feelings and my emotions. And sometimes I need to retreat inside to let the process go so that I can come out on the other side better and change. But I am better at it now. And I know how this process works. And I know how the formula works. And that's the point here, because we're always growing, we're always evolving. We're never the same person that we were yesterday or the year before or the years before. So if you think that you met me years back and this is Anca, you have no idea how much that Anca has changed. And the same must be true for you. So if you like to follow that journey, my journey through this process via my memoir, I will put a link in the episode notes so you can subscribe to my monthly newsletter. Beginning this year, all the chapters and reflections from my memoir that I was sharing via my LinkedIn newsletter, Rewired, A Life Rewritten in Sound, Strength, and Legacy, I moved all of that to my independent newsletter. So if you like to still be part of it, please use the link in the episode notes to follow that, because I no longer post on LinkedIn via the newsletter there. I will just probably drop updates when the actual newsletter comes out for anyone that's still subscribed, because apparently people are still subscribing to that newsletter. But I want you to still be part of that journey as the same voice, same frequency. It's just I feel like now I have better ownership of this newsletter. So if you want to be part of it and not miss what's coming next, join me and use the link in the episode notes.
Events Demystified, the podcast for event professionals.
Let's get to our fourth pillar, spiritual fitness. Spiritual fitness, this is an area that has been a very strong pillar in my life, but it's also been a pillar that I had to learn how to work with. It's an area where I've had to learn how to surrender in ways in which my type A performance-driven self didn't want to surrender. Because for years, I approach everything, including fate, like some kind of a project. If I work hard enough, I'll earn it. If I perform well enough, I'll be worthy. If I hustle enough, I'll be enough. But spiritual fitness taught me something really profound. Grace and salvation are not by works, but by faith. I don't have to work at my salvation. I don't have to earn it. I don't have to sweat at it. I just have to receive it. I just have to accept that it's not according to my doings. It's not according to my good behavior. It's not according to anything that I could perform. It's according to God's incomprehensible love and mercy that I am saved. And that goes against everything that I was wired to believe, because I am built to perform, to produce, to prove. And learning to surrender my strong will, my need for control, my obsession with earning, that has been the deepest and most transformative work of my life. Spiritual fitness doesn't mean I stop working hard. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't do good deeds. It means I stop believing my worth is tied to my output. It means that I can rest without feeling guilty. It means that I can fail without shame. And it also means that I'm learning, still learning, slowly, imperfectly, to trust something bigger than my own effort. So that's it. That's the foundation. That's the Fit for Events foundation: mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness. 4 pillars, 10 habits, one framework that keeps me grounded, capable, and showing up as my strongest and bestest self. This year, as I train for 2 of the hardest athletic goals that I've ever set for myself, I know that the systems will be tested. And guess what? I'll be sharing that journey with you right here in Build From Within. Now, outside of this podcast, I'm also deep in the editing process for my memoir. I've shared that in my previous episodes. It's a project that's been years in the making. So if you want to follow along the journey more closely, I'm inviting you to connect with me on LinkedIn, but also off LinkedIn through the separate newsletter that I set up for it. where I am going to be sharing relevant pieces from the book as it comes together. And then coming up next, like next week, I'll be speaking at Rain Focus Insight. I'm delivering a case study on what happens when AI plans an event A to Z. We put AI in charge of real execution, not just planning or brainstorming, but live decisions, real timelines, real pressure. That's the case study that I'll be presenting. And then in 2 weeks from now, I'll be speaking in Canada at the Go West conference, where I have a keynote on AI and another workshop, as well as a live taping of Events Demystified podcast on the main stage. Super excited what's coming next. I'm sure you're going to hear about it some more via the newsletter. When I think about AI, and especially because I am so involved with it at this point, I have to sometimes do those self-checks with myself every time I get in front of a crowd. And as I prep for a talk, I always have to ask myself this one question. Do the people in front of me, the audience, do they have the same exposure to this AI frameworks and strategies and tools and systems as I do? Because if they don't, I'm not just presenting case study, I'm not just presenting a workshop, I am bridging a gap. I'm translating potential into something actionable. And that's where you meet people where they are, not where I am. And that's the work, not just what AI can do, but how can we bring people along in understanding what's possible and what still requires human leadership, human creativity, decision-making, all the things that make us human. So if you're working with AI in events, operations, high-velocity teams, just know that I'm on your side. And if you need a speaker that can really translate and bridge the gap, find me at Anca.Trifan.me. That's my speaking website. And in the meantime, please share this episode if it spoke to you, if in one way or another has created a spark in you to try to do something different, to try to challenge yourself in 2026. And with that, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to my crappy voice. And thanks for trusting me with this honest, vulnerable, and messy part of this process that I'm going through. I really appreciate your time and your attention. This is Built from Within. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for tuning into Built from Within, part of Season 11 of the Events Demystified podcast, running in parallel with the CEO edition.